Hello, everybody. Welcome back to What's on D's TV. My name is Dee. This is my commentary podcast on all things movies, shows, media, music that I like, that I watch, that I listen to. My name is Dee, once again. And housekeeping rules are as they always are. We can disagree. You don't have to be rude about it. Feel free to leave any questions, comments, concerns in the comments below. Yeah, I hope y'all are having a good day and staying warm or cool, depending on where you are. Today I'm going to talk about the fourth episode of the Netflix show, The Hunting Wives. I know it's been a long time coming. And I'm excited to talk about the episode. So I'm going to get right into it. Um, the episode, uh, the episode starts with, Star and, seeing, she's watching the video of Abby who has, been killed. She's watching a video of Abby and a former classmate slash friend, talk about their junior year and how excited they are about it coming to an end and everything like that. And Star's just watching the video, and in my notes I put poor Star. I feel so bad for Star, and she's really the only one that I feel sad for in this show. Yeah. Oh. So, next thing we have is it's a montage of everybody watching the same video that Star is watching. And we get to Sophie and I think his name is Graham. Sophie and her husband's house, and he's asking her if she can turn down the the video because it's sad and morbid or whatever. Sophie was saying how yeah she can, she just feels sad about what happened to the girl, and Graham was like, you didn't even know her. And I was like, she can't feel sad a person died without having to have known her. And then I say this multiple times in this episode, but I said, Sophie, your husband is a douchebag and he has zero compassion. And I just don't know how they got to, well, I mean, I guess she doesn't really have a lot of compassion either. So you know what? Match made in hell. But yeah, he's a prick. And then so Sophie and her husband are still, they're having issues. And the boy walks in, their son. And Graham is like, say bye to your mom and all that stuff. So the boy's talking to Sophie, and he goes, Dad told me what you did. He told me that you killed a pig. And I was like, why would he tell the little boy that? Like, what was the reason he had for telling the little boy that? What did that impact? What did that help? What did that harm? Like, why would you say that? Anyway, so she was just explaining to him why she did it, quote unquote, because they're an invasive species in Texas and whatnot. And the boy was like, okay, no more killing. And Sophie was like, you're right, no more killing. And I just thought that was funny. So the next thing we have is Margot going to Jill in Brad's mom's house and giving Jill flowers and condolences for Abby's death. And I was like, why the fuck is Brad's mother getting flowers and condolences for Abby's death, but not her actual mother, Star? Like, I haven't seen anybody walk up to Star and send her any condolences or flowers. So why the fuck is Jill getting them? She didn't even care about Abby or like her. Like, what? This town is very backwards. But anyway, so yeah, I said Jill is a terrible person because she would do anything in her power to protect the boy, her son, and that's all she cares about. And Jill is a terrible. They're all terrible people, but Jill just anyway. So Margot was asking Jill if she thinks that Brad had anything to do um with Abby's murder. And Jill was like, oh no, he was home all night. And I said, you know that boy was not home all night. But again, she would do anything to protect this boy because she's a weird boy mom, whatever. So Margot is talking to Jill and she's like, hey, I brought something for Brad. Can I go talk to him? And Jill is like, sure, go ahead. Maybe he'll eat whatever you're bringing him because he hasn't eaten since he found out the news. So Margot goes up to Brad's room and she's talking to him. And I said, Margot is so fucking self serving. It's exhausting. And she really knows how to manipulate people because her whole reason for going up there really was to make sure Brad kept his mouth shut about him and Jamie being at the cabin with her and Sophie the night prior. That's really what this whole conversation, her going over to talk to Jill, that's really what it was about. She wanted to find out what Jill knew, and then she also wanted to make sure that Brad kept his mouth shut. And so, yeah, I said she's so self serving, it's exhausting, and she knows how to manipulate people. And he's still trying to protect her. And I said, well, he is a fucking teenager, so impressionable. But after everything, and him, being emotional about Abby's death, he's still trying to protect Margot. And that's the goal. And that's all he cares about. And I said, all these people are terrible. Like, a girl died, and y'all are just worried about how optics look for you, knowing that you was doing shit you shouldn't have been doing anyway. Whatever. All the people in this town are terrible. Anyway. So the next scene, Margot was like, make sure that to Brad, she was like, make sure that, they don't know that you were at the lake house with us. Make sure to keep that quiet. Anyway. The next thing we have is Callie talking to her husband, who is the police chief or some shit like that. She is like, we got to make sure catching the right, or no, Callie was talking to Margot, and she was like, you got to make sure catching the right guy could be an opportunity. And I said, Callie, your racism is showing. I said, these people are exhausting. Like, catching the right guy. She's talking about people who are like crossing over the borders and trying to make them the villain, because that's all the people in this town care about. Not that a girl died, but just how optics can look for them and their goals. So whatever. So the next thing we have is Callie. She went to the husband's office. I think he's the sheriff or some shit like that. She went to his office and she's explaining to him how, them catching the right guy could be good optics, and how, we gotta protect Texas from people crossing the border and their danger and all that stuff. All the racist shit, the racist spiel these people do. And she's telling him that his medicine, his muscle juice came in or whatever, and he has to drop his trousers so she can give him the needle. And I was like, why do I have to see this man's ass? This is giving me Euphoria flashbacks. Like, why I did not ask to see no naked men in this show, and yet, ugh. Anyway, and the other comment I said, of course he's on steroids because that sounds about right. And then the next scene we have is Jill talking to her husband while he's in the garden, clipping plants and whatever. And she's telling him how he should be worried about Brad and how it's going to look and wanting to protect him. And I said, Jill is so fucking annoying. Her husband cannot stand her. You could tell he can't stand her by the way he talks to this lady. And, she was like, you should want to protect him. And the husband was like, if you better hope that he had nothing to do with this, or he better ask God for mercy, because I won't be merciful. And I was like, ooh. The next thing I was just like, Jill would really do anything to protect this boy. Like, she does not care who it hurts, what it looks like, how it can harm her. She just wants to make sure she protect this boy. And that's just, that's wild. Next thing we have is Jill. She's going to the bathroom where Brad is in the shower. And, she's telling him, hey, it would probably look better if you tell folks that we were together last night when Abby was shot. If you tell them that we were watching the movie and I made my famous recipe, I think it was for like Muddy Buddies or some shit like that. Just tell them that, and we can beat this. And I was like, again, she will do anything to protect this boy. And he was like, yeah, sounds like a good idea. He got out of the shower. She handed him the towel. And when he got out of the shower, she looked down at his junk. And I was like, why are you looking at his private parts? disgusted. I'm disgusted. But, I wouldn't expect anything less from Jill. And then, so yeah, they conspired and made this plan that they were together. And so he couldn't have anything to do with Abby's murder. And then the next thing we have is, Star. And she's looking at a picture of Abby and Brad, and she's crying and very sad. And I said, I feel so bad for Star. Again, she's the only person in this show that I feel bad for. Really, truly. Um, so yeah. And then the next comment I have said, and yes, I thought Jill did it. But I didn't trust any of these people. So I was like, any of them could have. But Jill, she seemed like a good suspect. Her and Margot seem like good suspects, but they none of them can be trusted. So I don't know. Maybe Sophie did do it at this point in the show. I was like, maybe Sophie did do it. I don't fucking know, but I don't trust none of these people. And so the next thing we have is Sophie. She's been trying to get in contact with Margot all day, hasn't had any success. So she drove up to the lake house because again, remember the end of last episode, she found out that her gun was missing and she had no idea what happened to it. And she didn't have any recollection of the night prior because she was taking drugs and drinking. So she was like, I gotta find my gun. I think I left it at Sophie's house. I think I left it at Margot's house. Let me go see. And so yeah, she goes to the lake house and she just walks right in. I'm like, how you just walking in this woman's house, Sophie? But she real comfortable, I guess. She don't gotta worry about nobody shooting her for. She could be a robber. And anyway, whatever. So the next thing we have is Salazar, the detective. She's walking into the precinct and she's, trying to let the cops know everything that she found out about the case, everything that she figured out about the case. And the detective is telling her, he's like, I think that you should just, relax, chill out. You're injured. You're supposed to be getting better. And I said, Salazar is so funny to me. They told her to sit down and heal, and she's just like, no, I don't think I will. And I thought that was really funny. I was like, girl, you need to rest. Like, you would not be able to get me up out the bed if I had gotten shot. And listen, not to work in this shitty town. But the next thing we have is Sophie. She is still in the lake house, trying to find her gun, and she decides for some reason to go search Margot's panty drawer. And I said, Sophie, now why you in this girl panty drawer? Cause like, what? There's no way your gun would be in there. But she's in there looking around. I was like, girl, you gay. And then, as she's searching through, just looking at her underwear, Margot hooks up behind her. She's like, "What you looking for?" And then they start talking, and Margot, is asking Sophie about how much she remembered that night, and Sophie saying not much, and she just told her that her gun was missing, and she was freaking out. And Margot is trying to calm her down. It's like, let's breathe together and all that stuff. And then they start doing the do, and I was like, you think now? Your gun is missing, and you think now's the time for y'all to hunch. And I was like, they've been waiting for this though. And I just thought that was really funny. And I said, while I do believe Margot uses sex as a way to manipulate people and to get what she wants, I actually kind of feel like she likes Sophie, at least a little bit. Now, I don't know about love. I know that she's interested in her and she finds her fascinating and she wants to know all her secrets, which she does say later on in the episode. But I feel like she likes her in a way that she didn't care, in a way that's different from how she liked Callie or anybody else, to be honest with you. I don't know what it is about Sophie that has her so sprung, and vice versa. But it seemed like for Margot to be a very sexual person, even before her and Sophie were intimate, she was very, very interested. And Sophie was very, very interested in Margot as well. So I don't know. But I pointed out, I was like, this is a good sapphic sex scene, not gonna lie. It sucks that the scene I can actually enjoy the sapphic-ness because the boys, the kids, the teenagers are not around, making it feel fucking weird. The scene, the sapphic scene that I can actually enjoy is the shortest sex scene in the show. And that's unfortunate, but it was a good one. It was a good one. And so the next scene we have is Brad is talking to the cops about what happened the night before. And I said, Brad is a prick, but he does, how do I explain this? Brad is a prick, but he seems to be the only one genuinely torn up about Abby's death, other than her mother, of course. Now, I don't think it's out of love. I think he feels guilty because he wasn't there, so he doesn't know what happened to Abby. I don't think that he loves Abby at all. I think he loves Mark. Anyway, so I don't think it's out of love. I think he genuinely feels guilty that he wasn't there. And whereas Margot's worried about whereas everybody else is worried about optics and how it looks for them, Brad just seems like he feels guilty about not being there. Not enough to feel bad about, Abby's death, but enough to feel like, dang, if I was there, this wouldn't have happened. Type T. I don't think that I explained that right, the way I meant it, but it sounds good in my head. You got questions, feel free to ask them. And my next comment I wrote said, all these people are fucking terrible, because they are. They are terrible people. How are you questioning? I guess he's not even a suspect, but how are you questioning somebody and going so easy on them? There's a child that died. Like, this town. Anyway, so after they're done interviewing is a loose term, but after they're done basically talking to Brad, they're walking him out of the interrogation room, and you see they're joking and laughing and ha ha hee hee, and you see Star see them, and she's like, "What the hell is going on?" Like, because she believes that Brad did it. So she's like, "What the hell is going on? Like, why does it seem like y'all are super friendly? What happened to my daughter? Like, what's going on?" And yeah, I was like, all these people are terrible. Her daughter died, and you're telling her to calm down, and you're all buddy buddy with somebody who could possibly be the cause of her daughter's death is wild. And I would have sued, but that's just me. And so Salazar sees how, mad Star is, rightfully so. And she's like, how about I get you a cup of coffee? And so they walk out, and Star and Salazar are talking. And, Star asks her if she's the one who's investigating the missing girl, because prior to Abby's death, there was an investigation out for a missing girl. And, Salazar says yes. Star's like, well, have you heard anything? Have you seen anything? Have you found anything? And Salazar talks about, she was like, the only memory I have is what he smelled like, vodka and cinnamon gum. And I was like, huh. But then I was also like, are you supposed to be telling her that though? Because it's an open investigation, and she is not part of the force. She's like a regular person. So I don't know if you're supposed to be telling her details like that. I mean, I guess I get it. She was trying to bond with her because her daughter died, and Star is obviously distraught about it. So I get that. But it was just like, I don't think you're supposed to be telling her this information. It's an open investigation. But okay, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. And then so, Star was like asking Salazar to promise her that she'll solve Abby's case. And, Salazar was like, I can't make promises, but I'm going to try my hardest. And I said, finally, someone is being supportive to Star. Her daughter was just murdered after all. And you see all these fucking people again worrying about optics and, well, let me go make sure my friend is okay. But nobody is checking on the victim's mother. And that's just crazy to me. Not crazy because these people are terrible. but it's just insane. And anyway, so the next scene we have is Sophie and Margot are still in bed after they hunch session. And I say, yeah, I feel like Margot's actually genuinely interested in Sophie. Do I feel like she's interested enough to make it like an actual relationship? Maybe we'll see in season 2, but it does seem like she's genuinely attracted to her and interested in her story, I guess, or like the aspects about her that she doesn't know. But again, that could just be Margot being trying to figure out a way to manipulate somebody. Like, let me try to find an in. But it seems like she's interested in her. I don't know. And so Sophie's explaining, or Margot's like, I want to know everything about you. Like, where's this scar from? Sophie points to a scar Margot points to a scar on Sophie's abdomen. And Sophie starts telling Margot about how her and her husband were trying for at one point, a second child. And how she just couldn't stop bleeding. And so they had to give her an emergency hysterectomy. And I was like, so why when the series first started, people were asking Sophie and Graham about when they were gonna have another child. And Graham was like, oh, we're working on it, we're trying. I was like, why would you say that when you know that she can't get pregnant because she had hysterectomy? Like, that seems fucked up. Sophie was trying to be honest about it, but he like cut her off and was like, oh, we're working on it. Like, I don't like Graham. I don't think he's a good husband. I don't think he's a good person. He doesn't seem compassionate or caring at all. And honestly, he kind of feels detached to his wife and his son, to be honest with you. But that's just what I'm getting. And yeah, I feel like I said this already, but I really feel like Graham doesn't actually like his wife. And Sophie is struggling with comp head, of course, because the girl is gay. Fruity. She fruity in some way. And she is not with this man because she loves him. Not, I can tell you that. And so yeah, Margot, after Sophie explained everything, Margot is talking to Sophie and she's like, we got to make sure that we have our story straight. And I don't want anybody to know that the boys were with us last night. And I said, there goes Margot gaslighting. She's always gonna protect herself at the expense of everyone else. Doesn't matter who it is, as long as Margot is protected, that's all she gives a fuck about. So, yes, I do think she is manipulating Sophie, but I also feel like she's actually interested in her. She's not just trying to get what she can out of her. Maybe we'll see more of that in season 2. Maybe they'll explain it. I don't know. I think they should be together because they basically the same fucking person. But we'll see, I guess. So the next thing we have is Pastor Pete, this fucking creep. Oh, bars. Anyway, Pastor Pete is sitting in the pew. I'm not a church goer or a religious person, so I don't know all the words for the church um house, but I think it's a pew. That's what I'm gonna call it. And if it's wrong, no, it's not. So anyway, Pastor Pete is sitting in the pew, and then the I don't want to say deacon, priest, Jill's husband, who runs the church or whatever, he comes up to him and he starts asking about how weird he's been since Abby's death. Again, somebody died, but anyway, how weird he's been and how he's worried and how he thinks that Pastor Pete should step back. And he says something like, this isn't Louisiana. And in my notes, I was like, now what happened in Louisiana, Pastor Pete? Fucking weirdo. What happened? Of course, we find out later, but I was just like, something to remember. But anyway, the next thing we have is Jill showing up at Star's house. And I said, Jill, you got some fucking nerve showing up at this woman's house. The audacity. You know she don't like you. You know she don't trust you. You know she think your son killed her daughter. Why are you in this woman's face? And just being a prick too? Anyway. So yeah, Jill Jill shows up at Star's house and they're talking and Jill says something about how she and Star are not so different. And I said that would have been the biggest fucking insult to me if I was Star. I'll be like, I am nothing like you weirdo. Nothing like you at all. But yeah, Star is basically like, get out of my house. Like, I don't want to hear nothing you got to say. And Jill just can't take the fucking hint. And then after Jill gets it, and she's like, fine, I'm leaving. And she's like, we're praying for you. And I was like, Jill, get the fuck out of here. So when Jill knocked on the door, she handed a package to Star because there was a package on her front step. And when Jill left, Star opened the package, and I said, not gonna lie, it got me when Star opened the package, and it was the boots she bought for Abby, the boots that Abby was going on about wanting and saying how her mother couldn't even afford a pair of boots, and Star got them, and she was so excited. And that night that Abby died, she was gonna show her. She was like, look, I ordered the boots for you. And then so the boots were delivered, and she broke down when she saw what was in the package, and that got to me. I'm not even gonna lie. I was like, oh fuck. So yeah, the next thing we have is Margot and Sophie. They're standing outside. Sophie's about to leave and go home. They're, kissing and whatever. And I said, one hunch session, Sophie, and all of a sudden you aren't worried about your damn gun being missing? And I said, gas. Because, like, how you came here for a mission and then the mission was just whatever. All right, girl. One track mind. So the next thing we have is Sophie, Graham, and the boy sitting at the table eating dinner or whatever. And Margot is texting Sophie that she misses her, and Sophie's texting back, I miss you too. And she's asking if Sophie is gonna be at the vigil for Abby. And Abby's telling her husband about it. And he's like, his statement is, oh, maybe I should make an appearance, get some FaceTime with Jed. And I said, there's a fucking visual for a dead child happening, and you're worried about being in your boss's face? Sophie, your husband is a prick. I do not like this man. He is a terrible fucking person. All of them are, but he especially gets on my nerve. Anyway, so the next thing we have is Jed talking to Margot about how, the preacher or Jill's husband, I don't remember his name. Jill's husband, I keep wanting to say deacon, but I don't think that's the right term. Is it priest? Whatever. Jill's husband is saying how he's going to put money up for, so them to find the suspect for Abby's murder. And Jed is like, oh, um, it's not making me look good. It's making me look bad that he's putting up a reward, and, I'm just sitting here. And I said, Jed, get your self-serving ass out of here. Worried about helping out only when it's convenient for your fuck-ass campaign. You don't really care that a child died. None of these people care that a child died. And then to make it even worse, they don't care that a child died, and they're sitting in her mother's face acting like nothing is wrong. Like, I don't understand the blatant disrespect. Star has a reason Star has a reason to go off. I'm just being honest. Cause y'all had me fucked up. Anyway, so the next thing we have is Graham and Sophie showing up at the visual. And Jamie fucking pushes Graham to the side so he can get over to Sophie and hug her. And I said, Jamie, fucking please. Like, Sophie is not your girlfriend. Why are you pushing her husband aside to hug her? Margot didn't even do that, and they in love. But again, he's a fucking child. He's a teenager. So of course, anyway, whatever. I just thought that was real weird. And Graham didn't ask the questions that I would have, and he didn't ask enough questions for me, because I'd have been like, what the fuck is that? That was weird. Why did he feel comfortable pushing me out of the way to hug you? And then she was like, oh, we both, he was like, do you know him? Where did you meet him at? And she was like, oh, we both met him at the car wash. And then that's the end of it. My gas are flabbered. Anyway, so the pastor, Jill's husband, is up on stage and he's talking about how they're going to put a reward up for any clues or anything that goes to finding Abby's killer. And Jed decides this is the time for me to get on stage and talk about my fuck ass campaign. We're at a visual for a dead child, but I'm gonna make it about me. That's Jed's thought process in his little pea-sized brain. So he gets up on the stage and he spews all this like racist shit and how the danger is people coming across the border and we need to look out for that, and we should all have guns to protect, the spiel that these people do. And I was like, Jed, please get off the fucking stage. How do you take a visual for a dead girl and turn it into a campaign one? And the part that gets me is people were fucking cheering for what he was saying. I said, people are cheering for it. All of these people are terrible. This whole town is terrible. Whatever. So as Jed is talking about how, he's gonna change laws and make gun ownership easier once he becomes the governor of Texas, and then he calls Margot up and says she's gonna be the first lady of Texas, and Margot looks very like, oh my God. But she goes up there like the dutiful wife, and as they're talking, you hear the cop sirens in the background, and they come up to them and they are like, Sophie, you need to come with us. And I was like, Sophie, you in trouble, girl. And Graham was like, what's going on? Like, why are you taking her? And he's like, your wife's handgun is believed to be a murder weapon. And Graham, because Sophie did not tell this man that she bought a gun, had it in the house or anything like that. So he's like, my wife doesn't have a gun. We don't shoot. Like, we don't do that. And then Sophie is like, I don't even know, because he said that it is a weapon. It was a weapon in a crime in a different part of the town. And Sophie's like, I don't even know where that is. Not saying, yeah, I don't have a gun. She's like, I don't even know where that is. And Grandma's like, what the fuck? So now he knows that she had a gun. And I said, first, again, I said, Sophie, you're in trouble, girl. But then I said, why? Why did they have to do it so publicly? Like, I get it, suspect. We need you to come down now. But at a child's visual, you couldn't have waited till it was done to arrest her. I don't know. I was cringing so hard. But yeah, that's how the episode ends. Sophie is put into the cop car and she's being brought down to the station. She gonna have some splaining to do. And it's so funny, as she was being hauled away by the cops, of course she's looking to Margot. She tells Graham hire her a lawyer, but she's looking to Margot because she wants Margot to stand up and protect her. And then she was like, girl, Margot ain't that type of broad. Margot is I'm gonna protect me. Don't really care what you got going on type of bitch. But that's how the episode ends, girl. All these people are terrible. I'm really interested in what the storyline is gonna be for the second season, because I don't know where they could go from. You know how, like, sometimes you watch shows, like the first season of a show, and you're like, oh, I could see where they would go in season 2 or in another season. And I don't know what the next season would be about, if that makes sense. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully Sophie and Margot get together, because again, they're the same person. So why not? Match made in hell. And I just want Sophie to get away from Graham. I hate that man. Terrible fucking person. But yeah, those are my that's my recap, and those are my thoughts on episode 4 of The Hunting Wives. I hope I said episode 4 in the beginning. I think I said episode 3. But no, it's episode 4 of The Hunting Wives. And let me know y'all thoughts. I'm really interested in people's thoughts on this show, because I just feel like so many things frustrate me about this show, and I really want to know if it's just me. So yeah, if y'all have any thoughts, comments, or concerns, Put them in the comments below. Let's chop it up. I don't really have a random question of the day lined up. I mean, my birthday was this week, and so my brain is still fried from that. I can't really think of what is something that y'all are very obsessed with as of right now. Me, it's Catherine Hahn and Hershey's cookies and cream bars. Other than that, that's it. But yeah, I hope that y'all are doing good and having a good day, a good week, and staying safe, cool, warm, depending on where you are. And yeah, I hope y'all have a good night, and I will talk to y'all next time. Bye.